Hey, everybody. Thank you for being here on a Tuesday afternoon. It's gorgeous. It's sunny and hot as hell in Portland, Oregon right now. I am excited about the next guest, man. This guy has been in more projects than I even had any clue about, and we're going to get to him in a minute. Before we get started, I want to thank Five Star Guitars here, based in Portland, Oregon. They've got a fantastic selection of guitars. They do repairs and lessons. So if you're looking for pro lessons and you want to get taught by some of the best, like Jennifer Batten, go to www.fivestarguitars.com and hit them up. Tell them I sent you. In fact, if you want to find a way to spend some money from that massive stimulus check that you got, go out and price out some guitars and then check out Five Star Guitars selection. They have no sales tax here in Oregon. So you're going to find a better deal and you're going to support a local company. So www.fivestarguitars.com, hit them up, let them know I sent you. Now, business is done. It's time for the fun. I've got my homie, Steve Ferlazzo, based in Los Angeles, man. We got a lot to cover, buddy. How you been?
I'm in good, man. Kevin, how are you, bro?
I'm so good, man. I am glad to see your face. You're COVID free. You've got.
I am COVID free, and I've actually feel like I've been living in a cocoon for the past like couple months. I've been extremely busy, but I've been almost exclusively absent from social media. It's just kind of been bumming me out, so I'm just focusing on positive things, focusing on the music that I love, staying busy, and yeah, that's it.
Staying busy. So you're not playing live, but tell me about some of the projects that you've got going on right now.
Pretty much right as soon as the lockdown started on COVID, I started the Let It Be project through Soundcheck Live, which took almost a couple of months there. And then after that, I've been producing, I'm on my fourth artist that I've been producing since lockdown. Those projects will be coming out scattered, but wide range of stuff. I've been giving Zoom lessons on like Logic and Main Stage and piano lessons via Zoom. And I'm actually next week back in the studio with DJ Muggs from Cypress Hill, and we're going to be working really extensively for like another 4 or 5 records over the next couple of months. And I just started, this is weird, but I'm MDing and putting together a band for a new artist who has a record coming out in August. And we're still waiting to see how that's all going to kind of take shape. But huge room, 15 feet apart, whatever it takes. And which will be cool because no one's playing,
Right.
and I don't know about any gigs, but it's going to be pretty dope to be in a room playing with live human beings,
Totally.
So that I'm kind of excited about. So
Yeah, man. It's crazy how when we get caught up in the studio stuff and you're on the road and everything is chaotic and you kind of get sick of being around people, even though I'm an extrovert and I think you are too, man.
yeah, yeah,
You kind of burn out on people energy if it's not all positive. But right now, you see somebody, within 6 feet of you and you get excited to just reconnect, and especially musicians.
right.
About a week ago, it was the first time I actually got to touch drums in 5 months, man.
No way.
Mike Skill from the Romantics and we did,
Uh-huh.
we did a bunch of songs about 7 years ago, and we never did anything with him. He just released it and he wanted to do a music video, so he had
Hmm.
me come over, and I was wearing the mask, and he had some distance between him, and oh my God, man, I couldn't sleep that whole night afterward because I had all the dopamine rush from.
Oh, right,
It
right.
was so good. Still miss the live thing, but at least it was great to interact with one other person, and
Right.
you were talking about DJ Muggs. You talked about that Cypress Hill thing.
Yeah.
Let's talk about the background here. I love people's setups and their spaces. So I see some Avril Lavigne up there, but
Well,
you want to
start
go
on
through?
Batman.
Oh, sweet. Okay. What's the Batman connotation?
That is my favorite Batman issue. It's Batman 251. It was drawn by Neil Adams, written by Denny O'Neil. It was the first time that the Joker got brought back in about 15 years, and went to Comic-Con a few years back, and I met Neil Adams, the artist. He signed it for me, and there's people who might be watching who know, but I'm the hugest Batman freak. We can get into that. I got a whole shrine over there. But yeah, and then the other stuff is just tours from Avril. That was 2011.
Okay.
2014, and Best Damn Thing, the Girlfriend record, that was 2007, 2008.
Right.
And it's been amazing that I've actually been with her now for 13 years.
I was gonna ask you, man, because I met you right on that tour, on that album,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So, what? God. Okay, so the 7 and 8. What were you doing just prior to the Avril gig?
So I was doing Lollapalooza with Perry Farrell, Tony Canal from No Doubt, Nuno Bettencourt, and K Fig from Extreme. Perry was doing a solo project called Satellite Party.
Right.
And we did a warm-up show at the Key Club. And then 2 weeks later, we did Lollapalooza.
Okay.
And then this was summer of 2007, but the Satellite Party record wasn't done yet. So there was no more live gigs. So after Lala, they went back in to finish up the record. 3 weeks after Lala, somebody referred me to DJ Muggs, who was looking for a programmer keyboardist. So I started with DJ Muggs as well, August of 2007.
Wow.
And then the Avril auditions were in September of 2007.
Okay.
And then I started rehearsals with her January 2008. And the funny thing was that then Perry called in January and he's like, "Okay, dude, the record's done." And I'm like, "I'm all set, dude."
Oh, you already got hooked up with Avril, man. You've got the full-time gig. Wow. Okay, we got to go back before that then. So I know you're not a native Los Angeles cat. You grew up in the East Coast, right?
Yeah,
So,
Boston. Well, I was raised in upstate New York, but I consider myself came alive in Boston, where I went to Berkeley and had all these bands and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, for years. I love Boston.
when were you there? At like Berkeley?
Previously.
Okay. Well, the only reason I ask is I was thinking about all the other buddies that we've got that have gone there. Were you in the Nate Morton era when he was down there?
Yeah.
Playing? Okay.
Yeah.
Did you guys play together at all?
No, and I was also the same time as the Dream Theater guys.
Okay, right on. So yeah, I think they all went. The original lineup all went.
Yeah.
Right.
Yep.
That was kind of their project band for Berkeley. But
yeah, exactly. And
man, Gene was there.
more buddies of mine, Al Pahanish and Dorian Hartsong, who did Power Man 5000, which was a big Boston thing at the time. So yeah.
God, man, there are so many parallels that, when you look at Facebook and you see all the mutual friends that you have, it's interesting to see how far back a lot of those mutual things go, but there was a Power Man connection here too. A drummer, Adrian Ost, I'll bet, because he was down there in LA for quite a while. So Adrian was a young punk little drummer in Portland that got his first drum kit, I think, from me, like some years ago. But the Boston vibe, we talked about this just before we went live. The Boston vibe is so much different than the West Coast. So
it is.
It's not just a mentality, but I mean, the hustle is really something. If you grew up in New York City or you grew up in Boston and if you were looking for a gig, not only did you have to have the amazing chops, but you really had to be able to network and hustle.
Yeah, that was definitely a big thing. And that really served me well when I first made the move out to LA. And there was a lot of times I kind of think about it, and in retrospect, I was like, if I knew what I knew once I got out here, if I'd known it years before, I would have moved out years before. Now that being said, it all has to happen for a reason. But I had known so many people from the East Coast who moved out here to LA just thinking that they were going to be rock stars.
Right.
And in 6 months, they spent all their money, nothing happened. And then they moved back to Boston less than a year later. So I wanted to be really smart about it. So, the other important thing was that at that point, when I was still living in Boston, I was already in a band with Nuno in LA. So I was flying back and forth for rehearsals and then tours and all that, which gave me a chance to get used to, to Los Angeles and the whole vibe. And then once I made the decision to move out, I very carefully, planned my steps. Like I'd had the thing with Nuno, but that was just touring. That wasn't gonna keep me working steady. So I got in touch with a bunch of friends who knew people and studio people, and I had a friend of mine who worked with a prominent producer out here who made a call. And I was telling you earlier, by the second day I was here, I was going over to Desmond Child's house to pick up a demo to then start to work on what then was a new record by Hilary Duff.
Right.
And that was as soon as I got out here. So like, I started getting pushed into the whole studio thing, but I still very much love the whole live thing. And that's kind of been a lot of my story the entire time that I've been out here, is balancing out those two, because, one doesn't exclusively cover all the bills, but if I'm touring and then I come home for 2 weeks, I can go in the studio in those 2 weeks. Or if it's downtime from tour season, I've got studio stuff. So
Obviously,
I've been extremely fortunate, and I've while I'm not like a name star dude. I'm more of a journeyman, but I'm just proud of the fact that since I moved out here to LA, the only thing that I've done or had to do to survive and pay my bills is music, period.
that's amazing.
So
The band that you were talking about that you were in with Nuno, was that Dramagods?
yeah, it was
Okay.
Dramagods as what was the final incarnation. It started out called Population One.
Okay.
And it was that up until towards the end, when there was some trademark issues, so we changed it to a Dramagods.
Okay. I Man, I know we'll talk a little bit about Soundcheck live, but
Okay.
there was one of the craziest nights of my life, and I think anybody watching probably had those kinds of experiences where they've seen some show in their life that was unexpected, that brought them to tears, just completely gave them goosebumps, and they
Mhm.
couldn't sleep for nights afterwards. The night that you brought in Nuno, you guys did Lockdown, that Drama Gods
Oh
tune.
yeah,
Holy shit, dude.
yeah,
I remember sitting there, jaw on the floor, and I don't remember who the guitarist was that you had up there with him. There was a dual guitar thing that you guys
yeah.
did.
That was the house guitarist or resident guitarist, Steve Feckety, Chris Reeve from Filter, and now Avril was on drums, and Ashley Reeve, who's now married to Chris Reeve and has been who's been with Cher for the past few years, Adam Lambert before that, and Filter as well,
Right.
had played bass on that night. So
Well, that there wasn't a Steve Feckety on the particular night, because it was a long haired guitarist, and they were doing the dual shred thing. And there's a video out there that there's a bunch of YouTube clips of it, and I
oh,
remember,
there's hundreds at this
yeah,
point of
but
clips out there.
my God, man, that show in particular, uh, and I wondered how, if you were there for those early seminal days of Drama Gods and you'd been playing that stuff with him.
Oh, I was there from the very start. I
Uh,
mean, since 2001, bro.
you can see that you guys click so well together, man. It's
Yeah, I've literally known Nuno my entire adult life.
wow, that's
Since Boston days. I was in an original band back then called In the Pink. Extreme wasn't even signed yet, and we were playing clubs together.
Really? Okay.
Yeah.
Same lineup though. That it was like Sharon and Paul Geary. That was what
So
they were.
yeah, the first lineup, yeah, it was Gary, it
Pat
was Gary
Badger.
Sharon, Pat Badger, Paul Geary, Nuno Bettencourt, and ironically, Pat Badger was originally in our band, and he left our band to join Extreme. Good call,
Yeah.
Pat.
Yeah. Well, I it's cool to see those guys reuniting, right now. I mean, it's good that the band has had kind of a resurgence, and I like at the last they put out that 25-year or 30-year anniversary
Yeah,
album, and it sounds smoking. What
they still sound amazing. You
it's
know what I mean?
crazy.
And the funny thing is, I mean, it's all the guys. The only difference is K-Fig, but Paul has been doing amazing as a manager, and in Godsmack and Joe Perry and
Right.
Hollywood Vampires. Paul is doing perfectly fine.
Totally. Yeah, he's not wanting for a gig for
Yeah.
sure, man. Uh, so those early days then with Nuno, and when you
Mhm.
guys were doing all these gigs in Boston, was the scene there real competitive, or was it because I
Oh yeah, yeah. Especially back then, like this is just prior. This was a few years before the whole grunge thing.
okay, wow,
So yeah, it was extremely competitive, and it was funny because back then it was still like it was still the whole glam thing, and like dudes hated our band because we were glammy, and the girls liked our band because that was in back then.
sure,
But the dudes reluctantly went to our shows because that's where all the girls were
yeah, and you guys
at,
could
at that time.
play your asses
So
out too.
yeah.
Have you guys still done any newer Dramagods stuff, or is everybody been too busy?
No, no. We did a double record called Love. I think it was probably now 2005, and that ran its course, and then Nuno started to sow the seeds with Extreme again. And oh no, I'm sorry. It went from Dramagods to Satellite Party,
Right,
which was Perry Farrell,
right.
and then he stayed on with that for a record cycle and tour. I had already started Avril at that point, and then he did another Extreme thing. Then he did the gig with Rihanna.
Right, that's right. Yeah, he was her guitarist for
Yeah,
all
and
those.
then back to Extreme, and now he's been doing great. He has a full service production company called Atlantis Entertainment, and he's got all sorts of shit going on. He's got musical artists, he's got scripts, and all. He's got, yeah. So he's doing great. But just getting back to that is just that as far as the music, I've known him for many, many years. We've always been good friends, and we do click well. And I've probably had him at Soundcheck Live more than anybody because every time he's there, it's always an incredible night. He always picks the best tunes, songs that you would never think of, and he's a perfectionist and extremely entertaining.
Yeah, both of you, really, man. I mean, one thing I love about the curating that you do for these shows, when you really started going to theme nights, I'd love for you to talk about the Beatles, the Let It Be show that you guys put together there just prior to COVID.
Well, I will just to be clear, it wasn't a show; it was a video.
Yeah, well, sorry, the production.
And yeah, no, yeah, that's
Yeah,
okay. So yeah, as soon as I'll try and encapsulate it, but as soon as the lockdown orders started happening in California and everybody's tour got canceled, and then the Soundcheck live show because bars and clubs got shut down as well. I basically had just lost 3.5 months of touring.
right.
So I didn't know what was going to happen. I didn't know yet about unemployment. I didn't know where rent was going to come from. Somebody told me about the Musicares charity.
Right.
I applied for that really early on, and I think because I applied really early on, I was one of the first ones to get checks from it.
Good
And I
deal.
was like, I can't believe there's an organization that recognizes what people in our industry are going through as early as they did and came up with a means to help, you know?
Right.
And so that happened. And then I just wanted to give back. And I wanted to find a way to kind of tie in the whole Soundcheck Live thing because I can't do it anymore. So I decided on the song and I just started reaching out to everybody that I know. And I started a process of sending out either stems or logic projects with a version of the song that had all the parts except for theirs.
Okay.
Like if it was a bass player, it was all there except for the bass line. And
Nice.
then they did the thing, shot the video, and then like Avril, I was never even gonna ask her. I'm like, she's got all this other shit going on. And it was ironic because like I was talking to her one day and she's like, yeah, so what's going on? And I'm like, yeah, I'm doing this thing and I got 60 people and it's gonna be this whole huge video and squares and all this crap. And then she's like, did you want me to sing on it?
Yeah.
And I'm like, I mean, I didn't know if you even had time, but if you wanted to sing something on it, I would love that. 3 days later, sends me pro vocal tracks, HD video. It was great.
That's so
So
cool.
she was really good about it, and she's also been very, very active on the charity front as well. She released a single from her last record called Warriors, which she got all these videos from hospital workers and frontline workers, and it was great. So she had done that. She did something for Canada-based charity or whatever, and I was like, well, if you actually have time for it, great. So yeah, so that came out. We set up for donations and all that. I don't remember what the final tally. I think it was like 5 or 6 grand or something. Um, and it was great. So through that, more people were able to get funding. So it was great, and the whole project took me 2 months, and it was literally like 12 to 14 hours a day. It was
Man,
crazy, but it got me through. Like
sure.
I was never like there was a lot of people who just had nothing to do and were just sat there in their own heads and thoughts or whatever. And that's the only thing that like works for me is just staying as busy as possible or else I'll lose my mind.
Oh man, I'm telling you, I think that's really what's been important about me doing the show. I did it as
Sure.
as an accident, right?
Right.
I had our guitarist from Flock where we were just talking about shows that may or may not happen at the beginning of this thing. And
Ginger
Jennifer,
beer.
there,
Sorry.
oh, my favorite right there, man, the Bundenberg. Yeah, I'll need to get a sponsorship from them so that I can just have, I'll
I'll call them
gladly.
up.
Yeah, thank you. You make a phone call for me. Um, it just turned into something. Jennifer Batten reached out and said, hey,
Oh,
you've got to do this thing as a podcast. It's informative, it's educational, but really it's cathartic for people
right.
that want an escape. And so it's a distraction. And for me, I get to reconnect with all my old buddies, right? So
Right.
I love the fact that I can do something productive. And when I'm stuck in my head, I noticed yesterday it was the first time that I kind of allowed the pandemic to get to me. And so I was like outside and making sure I was doing stuff around the yard and really trying to focus on
Hmm.
positive, productive stuff. Cause so much of what's crazy about this is that it's all out of our control, right? It's affecting
Yeah.
everybody, the entire
Yeah.
planet. In the US, obviously, there's stupid shit going on and it's just really getting more insane. But I love that people are being productive. They're finding the silver linings in it and they're doing
Yeah.
something positive. And really, I'm hopeful that people can kind of band together, even if they can't be physically together. But the
Yeah.
stuff that you did with Let It Be, it's really cool to hear about Avril doing that too for like the frontline workers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, you know, you take for granted a lot of that stuff until you're faced with something that
Oh
directly affects
yeah,
you.
I mean, look at and that's what I was saying. Like I'm fortunate in the sense that most of the work that I do and can do is right here. Like
Mhm.
I keyboards, laptop. I have mics. All the work that I need to be able to do sessions, whether it's doing it here and remotely. There's a lot of people who prior to the pandemic didn't really have a setup
Yeah.
and whose primary source of income was doing live shows,
Right.
be it clubs, be it theaters, I don't care,
Yeah.
be it at the fucking restaurant on Saturday afternoon, it don't matter.
Right.
But that was the hard thing. And I think if this pandemic has I was going to say if it's taught us something, but I don't, that's not the right word, but I think what it's forced a lot of people to do is adapt somehow.
Sure.
Like, there was something that came out a couple of days ago by somebody in the government where it was just like, yeah, just find a new skill, find a new line of work.
Yeah.
Easier said than done, right?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
and
Right.
and it's like, it's not like, oh, okay, well, now I'm going to go to college. But that aside, I'm just saying, like, there are things in your field, we
Sure.
just need to adapt, like whether you're fortunate enough to get assistance or unemployment. The added stimulus ends in 7 days.
Right.
Who knows what's going to happen there? And and we just don't know. And then now, a couple of days ago, there was a news blurb, I don't know if it was from Live Nation or whomever, but now hinting that large scale shows, it might be 2022.
Right. Right.
Who knows? I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen tomorrow, next week. If a vaccine comes out, that'll certainly help. And yes, but to your point, there's things that are just out of our control. And the only thing that we can control is what we're able to control,
Sure.
whether it's going out and taking walks, I don't know, or finding some things that are heavy and working out. I
Yeah.
haven't been doing that.
Self-improvement. Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I just have to find things to do. And it was funny because I finished the video, and like a week after, I had my first real weekend of depression.
Yeah. Yeah. Because all of a
And
sudden,
I,
the
I
letdown.
did one little blurb on Facebook, and everybody was like, "This is what we've been going through, totally normal and all that," and it was just because I had spent hours every single day working towards a goal. That goal was accomplished,
Right.
and then I hadn't set something up next, and for me, I don't do well doing nothing.
Sure.
It's not good for me.
Yeah. Well, that part of the hustle, man, your East Coast hustle needs to be on the move all the time. I think anybody down there in LA, a lot of my friends that are really successful are the guys that can, like I said, they've got the chops, but the ability to walk into a room and be a great hang and be reliable and responsible.
It's
Like
huge.
like a mutual friend of both of ours, Glenn Sobel's been a dear friend for a long
Oh,
time. Deserves every great opportunity that he's got right now,
absolutely.
and I learned a lot from him in this time. I talked to Jennifer Batten earlier. We
Hmm.
He and I met because I started playing with Jennifer up here, and he'd played with prior, and
Yep.
I was so blown away by the stuff that he did on a record. She said, you should just go down and get a lesson with him, or hang with him. He's such a good dude. And I
Hmm.
went down to take lessons, and it just turned into me kind of sitting with my jaw on the floor again for an hour. And then we went out and we hung. He took me around the venues, and we got to know people, and I watched the way he interacted.
Yeah.
And in that scene, in my perception of how people can move and shake in Hollywood, I just pictured the guys that are kind of like stepping on the ladder and moving on, pushing people down to get ahead. He was such the opposite. And most of my friends that are there are like that. They're more interested in being collaborative and helping each other out. And
Yeah. There's just a certain, it's, I it's there's a certain way to carry yourself socially, and again, the ability or the chops kind of needs to be a given. There are some people who can get further just by talking and networking and all that's a part of it, but that was what I had to learn
Mm,
when I moved out here. And I knew that I had to adapt to that aspect. I knew that I had the hustle, and if somebody needs something done in 6 hours or it was no problem. Like,
yeah.
actually doing was the easy part. But it's funny because like there was a couple other um, guys that I was in a band with at that time who had also moved from the East Coast around the same time, and I started getting ribbed because they were like, "You're so LA,"
Really?
and I'm like, I'm just absorbing and recognizing what I have to do to adapt. That's
Yeah.
all. Like,
Yeah.
there was no less hustle or get up and go. Okay, I'm here. The work ethic is there, but there's so many other aspects to it.
Sure.
So
Man, I did mention to you too that Kenny Aronoff and I talked the other day.
yeah, mhm.
Oh my God, man. For 2 hours, all I had to do was introduce him and then the stories start.
Oh my
I
God, Kenny,
I mean, of
endless.
course, we knew that he'd have the stories, but I knew about the endless energy, the boundless energy.
Yeah.
But he too. I mean, he was a Midwest guy, but it's amazing to think about the hustle that he's got. There's never been a time at any point where he said, you know what, I made it, I'm good. There was never that complacent section and said, like,
I don't think for like the guys that continue to do it and
yeah,
continue to work and make some sort of impact, that doesn't happen. That's just not part of your DNA,
yeah. Did you have like, kind of like mentors that way when you were in Berkeley and growing up on the East Coast, guys that were influential that inspired you that way?
It's messed up. No.
Really? It was just you like self-driven promotion. All right. Well, tell me about your time at Berkeley. The people that are in LA, it's funny because I know, at least from what I've heard, when I'm down in LA, somebody mentions that they're a Berkeley cat. There's a little bit of a stigma, even though the school is so accomplished and so much more developed than some of the local establishments, on the West Coast.
Yeah.
And the curriculum, the expectations, the professionalism that has to come out of Berkeley is, it's top notch. And it's funny that there'd be a stigma, right?
Well,
But
it's funny. It's funny that you say that, and I guess it's a matter of perception because, I mean, I'm always blown away at how many people that were at Berkeley are out here and doing well. There's a couple of different kinds of Berkeley cats.
right.
Like, I certainly wasn't the jazz cat. Like, I'm not a cat. Not a cat. I went to Berkeley. I did my proficiencies. I did my ensembles and all that. Um, but I was never a cat. I mean, I'm not gonna lie. Like, I got to Berkeley, and when I first got there, and I just wanted to be a rock star. I got in a band 3 months after I got there. Um, my very first term, I tested out of what I could, but the classes that I ended up being in for my first term, I just kind of breezed by, which was bad because I was just going out to clubs every night and trying to like live that life. And then my second semester, things got a little bit harder. And then by my third semester, our band had gotten our first deal. So I was out.
Wow.
So just for the record, I didn't graduate.
Okay. That band, they got the first deal. What was the band?
In the Pink.
Oh, that was it. Okay.
Yeah.
It's always interesting to talk to somebody who went out there. Nate Morton and I have this conversation
Mm-hmm.
a lot. He's a Berkeley grad,
Yep.
he would never consider himself a Berkeley cat either, but I think that he is.
He's a Berkeley cat.
When I talk to guys from there, they say, "Oh yeah, and he's a cat." He just said he didn't fit into the little pockets, the niches, the cliques.
There was definitely clicks there.
And he had a tenure, and we talked about everybody doing a tenure of missing persons gigs. Nate also had a run of missing persons gigs where he played drums. He did.
Of course he did. Everybody did that gig.
Tell me about your time in missing persons, man. I want to know.
So, okay. Again, I think I got lucky because the first run that I joined, Mike Mangini was on drums.
Of course he was. Yeah.
And Mike is the biggest, or was the biggest Terry Bozzio nut.
Right. And he's a Berkeley guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Mike is all about Pak the Ka and Havid Yad. And Mike was just great. And it was a great band, but touring with Dale, it doesn't get more crazy. I love her to death, so I don't want to even talk about the stories, but they're just like the best road stories, just crazy shit. And God love her. I mean, like, it's not even a story, but it was the only time that I've done a van tour, and she can't or won't drive, but she's always backseat driving.
Oh, no.
And I think that I can. It's not bad to say this, because it's legal now. But she, or at least back then, liked cannabis.
Right.
And it would make her paranoid.
Oh no! So she's all freaking out about the driving. Okay, yeah, I could see it.
That is literally the most lame and tame story that I can probably tell. But it was a good. I mean, she's Dale Bozzio, right? And I did it long enough ago, and the band was great, so it felt credible. But then each run, it just,
Sure.
And I was like, I'm good.
There's some undeniability in the music, right? Like that
Springsteen
record is
the music's incredible.
That record is,
I love it.
One of the greatest to go down. I know what you mean, and I wouldn't want to disparage Dale or the gig either. I think because her heart and her spirit is really pure, and she's a wonderfully sweet, kind woman.
Absolutely.
I think what needs to happen, Steve-O, we need to have every member that's ever played a gig as missing persons put together a book, and then we'll just release it prior to everybody's passing, because
dude, I mean, there's got to be hundreds.
Yeah. Can you imagine the movie? Can you imagine the movie about
if you put all the collective stories together?
Yeah.
Look at you know what, I will say this. One of the best things about touring with Dale, the Zappa stories.
Oh yeah, man. They're endless. She's it is remarkable how much she remembers about all those details, but yeah, I agree with you, man. And
great stuff.
And thinking about the caliber of players that have been not just the original Cats, but even having you and Mangini in that gig, and I know that Nate played that gig for quite a while.
Chip Enough.
Chip was on many of the gigs I saw. That we did NBC's "Hit Me Baby One More Time" with Animotion. I was with Animotion then, and we were on there with Missing Persons. And Chip, man, I may have to talk to Chip on this show one of these days. I
love Chip, man.
I had Johnny Monaco on, and Johnny's got the best Chip impersonation that he does, and he left Enough's Enough, a couple of years ago. I don't know if you knew that, but he's got great Enough's Enough and Chip stories. Most of my Chip stories were crazy with Steve Adler. I think if I put all those together, but again, I wouldn't want it to disparage anybody. I think they're just enough. I have to hang on to those stories for the times that you and I do this.
Nothing is gained by disparaging anybody.
No, I just need all those people in the room so we can heckle it together.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and speaking of the heckle, the first time you and I met, Jimmy McGorman was in the band with
Yes.
you, with Avril, and I was telling you how Jimmy and I knew each other. We did we did a benefit show for our guitarist at the Key Club. It was, and the craziest thing was, you know, the Key Club held only like 750 or something like that. It was a pretty small venue, but Rod Stewart put it together because our guitarist had been playing with Rod. He had got cancer and he wanted to raise money with a big charity concert and an auction. So Katja Reicherman ran the auction, and all of the performers, or all the artists that Dawn, our guitarist, played with, did this event. So it's
Awesome.
Rod Stewart with his whole band, the whole horn section, all the backup singers. This is at the Key Club, right? And
Yeah.
Richard Marx was playing guitar for Fee Waybill and the Tubes.
No way.
Then we had Debbie Gibson, Vertical Horizon. Trying to think of all the bands. There were so many bands that he played with. Martika, you know, so like
Martika,
yeah.
Tin Soldiers,
Toy Soldiers.
Toy Soldiers.
Yeah.
And,
But at that gig, Jimmy ended up playing guitar with us because Don was sick with cancer.
right.
And McGorman just came in like a pro. You know, he learned the set in like,
He's the
you know,
best.
an hour's time, and walked in, nailed the gig. We all went out to dinner afterwards over at the Rainbow. And I just sat and talked to him about his hustle, you know, because he's avid like comic illustrator. I know that he was working on like a animation series thing that he was doing on the side while he was playing with Avril, right? And he said, yeah, I've been doing the Avril Lavigne gig. You got to come out and see the show. So he guested me at the show that I saw you here in Portland.
Portland, yep.
We all went out afterwards to this sushi restaurant, sushi and cocktails. My friend Aisha Strasbaugh came with me. She loves Avril, and she was so excited to get, you know, put on the guest list as a guest. And I remember you and I think I probably had tequila that night because I think it was breakdance and doing the worm on the floor. And you and I had, yeah, those are, I'm not real.
Jack Daniels for me.
Okay. Yeah. But, I'm surprised we didn't get kicked out of the venue. And the spirit, it was the whole band was there. Avril hadn't been yet, but Al Berry just had a birthday then, I think. And so we were celebrating Al's birthday that night. And it was really cool that you guys were mid-tour or close to the end of that tour by that time, but people weren't burned out. Everybody was so energetic.
No, that was, I think there was only 2 more shows after that, and then there was 2 weeks off, and then we were back to Asia.
Yeah, you did like a jingle ball where it was cold as hell.
We literally, on that record, we did an entire year just of TV promo, an entire year before the tour even started.
Wow.
And then I think it was like 14 months of touring on top of that. It was a huge record for dancers and all that kind of stuff, which
the production was huge. I remember that.
Yeah.
I mean, you know, like Shulman is a dear friend, and you know, the Pink band. I've been going to see Pink the last several times they come through. It's the same kind of thing. I mean, it's like seeing Cirque du Soleil meets, you know, the biggest production concert rock show you can see.
Yeah.
But, and really, you guys had so much of that. I remember tons of like pyro type stuff, you know, sparkle, you know, and sparks and shit. But that 14 months nonstop touring. Did you do like, you know, 3 on, 1 off, and or were you just
back then? I mean, we were doing in between 4 on, 1 off, 3 on, 1 off. There was a bunch of 5 bangers, which ironically it was that tour that she was like, no, it was too much, you know.
Yeah.
But her management and label worked her to the bone, to the point where she was like, no good. I mean, the thing that was really incredible about that record and that cycle is her big song Girlfriend. She sang the hook in 8 different languages.
Oh my God. So whenever you
So
toured, she,
that opened up. She like sang it in Mandarin, Korean, Japanese, German, Italian,
smart.
Spanish. From that standpoint, yeah.
Yeah.
So then that's why like all that promo that had us playing on all these TV shows singing the chorus
And
in that language.
God, man, that was that her choice or was that management saying, "Here's an idea that's really going to help push you over the edge"? Do you know?
Management.
Yeah, management was doing all sorts of things that I remember. Even that night, the party, I do remember. As soon as Avril came in, the mood changed a little bit. Not having to do with her, but management was like looking at uh, maybe changing lineup a little bit. And I remember like it got quiet because I think Al maybe or Jimmy kind of kicked me under the table. Hey, like we gotta be real pro here. No more fucking break dancing on the floor kind of
Uh,
gig. Because I think somebody got replaced right after that because like Al was turning like 50, but he looks like 30, But even then, Avril was really young. And so the concern was that maybe the guys were looking long in the tooth compared to her.
but that it's I'm trying to think about that, and that's interesting as I think about the time because you got to understand that same band went from 2007 until 2012.
Same lineup.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow. I just maybe it wasn't that the lineup changed, but the concern was there that they were really trying to make sure that there are no waves made because management.
Oh yeah, yeah. I
Just
mean, yeah, stuff like that certainly. But no, I mean it was a solid lineup, and there was a lot of attention put towards putting together the right kind of band and all that. And sonically, it was great. The band was on point. It stayed the same lineup until 2000, until that tour. um, where Steve and Jim, both of them had left to do something else,
okay.
and then brought in a couple new guitar players who are still in the band at this point.
Right on. Well, that's nice to have the consistency. Al's still doing the gig too, right? Al Berry? Nope. No, I remember thinking how I could tell that guy had crazy chops and how perfectly just watching him live, how he played such a service to the music. When you see guys that are like real like pop funk players,
Yeah.
but well, it's like Nuno playing with Rihanna. Nuno's not going to come out blazing guns all night long on a Rihanna tune until it's asked for, right?
No, yeah, that's the whole thing, especially with a guy like Nuno. He has his spots, and he
Yeah,
does his rock star thing.
yeah,
And no, Al's just cool.
yeah, yeah. He really
Al's
is.
just cool.
He's
He's
like,
got the shades, lays back in the cut.
yeah, yeah. That's right, man.
So yeah.
And you had talked about producing other bands too, right? I mean, you've got some artists that you're developing right there. Well, we've got COVID going on.
Yeah, well, yeah. There's been four. Well, I'm sorry, three. I said four earlier. But yeah, just a couple are longtime friends that have been wanting to get some new stuff out. So have been on that, and then I've got this girl um, who loves Toad the Wet Sprocket,
Okay,
and I'm doing a 5 song Toad the Wet Sprocket tribute record with her.
interesting.
Um, that and she loves the band, and it was funny because like I mean I know who they are. I hadn't
Sure.
really thought much about it, and I thought it was just kind of left field. And inherently music is music, right? And then you just start getting into it and digging in. You're like, all right, this is cool. The harmonies, and it was kind of an indie type thing. And for her, she's a female vocal. A lot of those vocals are really low, so we had to kind of pitch up a lot of the tunes, and that kind of brings a new life into it. But I got some amazing, amazing players on it. Um, People just want to work, you
Yeah.
know.
That
So yeah, that's been I just all of the music is done. I just passed it off to the mixer. Vocal for 3 out of the 5 tunes is done. I should have mixes in the next couple of days. Doing another track with a good friend of mine. That's going to be kind of like 9 Inch Nails, Rage, and Red Hot Chili Peppers.
Wow. Okay. That's
Which I
slamming.
love all that stuff. It's just the different aspects of that or whatever. Yeah, but the main thing is getting back in the studio with DJ Muggs. So
You've worked with them a long time. So tell me about the Cypress Hill connection.
so no, so again, this is going back to 2007. There was a dude who was friends with this guy Al Pahanish, who used to drum in Powerman 5000. His friend was an engineer, and Muggs was asked the engineer guy, he's like, do you know anybody who's got a bunch of sounds, is a great keyboard player, and who can recreate what you hear as a sample, but make it not a sample.
Okay.
And then that just started, and next August 15th will mark 15 years. And I mean, I
Wow.
think I've been involved on every record he's produced in 15 years, so it's
No.
got to be like 30 or 40 records or whatever. So
Oh
and
my God.
and so the Cypress connection is that he's the original DJ and producer for Cypress. I mean, I got involved after when so it came to the point where Muggs just wanted to produce, so he's still a member of Cypress, but he doesn't tour.
Okay. Just does everything from home.
Does he just
Yeah.
studio and production nonstop? Puts out. He has the Soul Assassins brand, and he's been putting out rap records for years and years and years. A lot of great stuff there, and that's been a great relationship with him. And then a few years ago, about 5 years ago, he got hooked up with a South African band called Antwoord.
Right. Oh,
Crazy band.
huge.
Some people don't know, but just this, I don't even know how to categorize it, but it's just like this really high energy trance
Yeah.
dance type kind of stuff.
The
With the
EDM
videos
scene.
are very out there. And so the funny thing was, I'll try and get, time's running out.
You're
But
good.
anyways, so I was in the studio working with him. One day I go in and I'm like, so what are we working on today? And he was like, we're doing some Donker Mag shit. I'm like, I don't even know what that word means.
Yeah. Right.
Turned out it was the name of their record.
Oh, okay.
But I was in between touring with Avril, so I just did tracks. I don't even know what the heck that they were for. And then I'm out on the road. Avril's hairdresser is like, you got to check out this new band. They got this new album out called Donker Mag. I opened up the
Oh.
liner notes. I'm
There
like,
you are.
dude, I'm on these songs. I
Okay.
had no idea. And then I had worked on a couple albums after that, and I got to co-write credit on 5 tunes on the last record. So
Right on, man. That
yeah,
yeah, it's funny because I would think that coming out of Berkeley, you mentioned that you just wanted to be a rock star. You weren't so much into the,
then
yeah, but stylistically, you kind of gone across the board. I mean, I would imagine you probably could. You're getting. Do you do like scoring and that kind of thing too? You get like cinematic stuff?
that's like kind of like the next new bastion that I've been trying to work myself into, and I've actually been using this time to educate myself to the ins and outs of that, because I think it's something that I'd be extremely well suited to do.
Yeah.
I just haven't gone all in on that yet. So, I'm like I said, I'm just kind of using this time to figure it out and the processes, and then I want to start doing some tests by just getting some video with no audio or no what's the word, underscore,
Okay. Yeah. So like
and just kind of start to work and build that and see how that progresses. I mean, I love, um, I do a lot of orchestration stuff, um, but not specifically for scoring.
okay.
You know, like we've for Avril, the last record, the first thing, the record has a lot of strings.
Okay.
So early on in the process, I did string arrangements for all the songs on the record that have strings. We did a gig at the Greek Theater in L.A., and she wanted to have a string section. So I know a lot of amazing string players, and it was great that I was able to bring them in to the rehearsals, and they were great. And I thought that the actual string arrangements came out great, and yeah, that's something that I love doing, and I would like to get into scoring, but I'm not currently.
Okay. Yeah, I could see you really doing well with that, man. I mean, your personality, your attention to detail, your creativity. I think those would be, and during, say, pandemic downtime where you're kind of just driven on your own schedule, nobody works harder than you. I looked at how you put together those shows at Soundcheck. And I know if I'm right, I think Kim, your bride, was
Yeah,
kind of helpful in assembling members and sort of
extremely.
herding cats and putting people together. But I
Yeah.
couldn't imagine doing that weekly and still having another life, man. I don't know how
Well,
you.
it's okay. So, lastly, that was the thing. So, when I was doing it weekly, it was great. And I loved doing it weekly. And I was able to pull it off. Like, the show happens on a Wednesday. Thursday, I take a day off and then fire it all up again.
Yeah,
But what had happened over time, the problem was that gig doesn't make money.
right.
I mean, I get a small bit, but believe
Labor of
me,
love.
I certainly cannot make my nut off that show,
Right.
even weekly.
Sure.
So the problem was, I mean, while I had studio stuff going on in between, it was good. But what problem was, nobody was calling me for work,
Oh, because they thought you were
and
too
they were
busy.
telling me, they're like, I would have called you, but you're so busy doing sound check
Mm,
live,
yeah.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
and then so I'm like, then I was like, I'm gonna go monthly, and I swear to God, the first month that I went monthly, I started getting calls.
Yeah. Well,
So
and it's probably great for fans too, because it's more special, right? There's a little bit
yeah,
more time in between.
yep.
You had some crazy shows lined up there. I know that one that was supposed to happen that just didn't because I think the fire marshal shut it down. Can't talk about it.
No, no, just
Uh,
that was a previous thing.
okay. Yeah. I remember just reading about some of these things. The shows that were supposed to
Yeah,
happen, and however
but
they got leaked. But I every night that I came out there, it was capacity. It
yeah,
was
dude. I mean, I've had we've had I think it's 9 or 10 Rock and Roll Hall of Famers perform. We had a whole set from Jackson Brown,
oh wow.
Nancy Wilson, Howard Leese, Bill Ward, Johnny Depp, Joe Perry, Bill Ward,
God, yeah, man.
Clem Burke.
You mentioned the Greek Theater. Clem was at the last gig I think I did in LA was there at the Greek, and
Hmm.
he was on the side stage watching because he's buddies with Romantics and Dramarama
Sure.
and the Tubes. So Prairie Prince said, "Hey man, just say hi to Clem," and I'm like, oh, was he seriously here? Like another badass drummer on the side, watching as we're going on. But
Hmm.
I had a fun story about the Greek, man. Like we were up, we played the night after Ringo's All-Star band. And
Okay.
so one of the production people came in and said, "Oh, you're sitting where Ringo was last night." And all of a sudden, I felt a little rush, a little vibe,
Right.
but in the dressing rooms upstairs, there's one main dressing room. Like, fortunately, that night we were headlining the gig, so we got the A room, and the entire wall, I don't know if you were in that room, it was all their electronics. They had, all the AV equipment and glass panels that would pop open. One of the glass panels popped open with a ladder that went up through the ceiling, and it went up through the skylight. So I snuck up and I climbed on top of the Greek Theater. And then during the day, I checked it out. And then I thought, I got to go back at night during the show. So I watched Dramarama from hanging over the.
No, you didn't.
I did, watching them. And you could see like the Griffith Observatory from one end, and then the beautiful view on top, just this panoramic view of the Greek Theater fans watching the show. But I watched, looking directly down into the pit. If I had fallen, it'd make great history. But man, when you mentioned the Greek Theater, you said this, and to me, man, that was a bucket list gig for me too. It was just one of those special moments that, and everything about it. The venue is historic, and sound and production was all amazing. But to be up there with buddies, was fantastic. Oh, there's your 4 o'clock.
I'm good.
That's
ironic though. The call literally came in at 4:01.
Yeah. It's Steve's accountant. They said, "Oh, we've got more stimulus for you." Now, man, I'm excited about the new stuff that you've got going on. I'm more encouraged to know that you're busier during the pandemic than a lot of people are.
But I'm trying, and it's like things could be happening right now, and in 2 weeks it could be nothing. I don't know. I just put as much as I can out there, and look at, I have a wife and a family to provide for. And that's all I want to do. And however I got to do that, and if I can do it exclusively doing music, then
yeah, man, I'm so proud of that. Your bride to Kim is just a really dynamic woman, man. Really, I just we chatted briefly at the event that she put together that I ended up playing on at your event, your show, and I met so many amazing people. I didn't know Steve Feckety before then. Jude Crossan, I fell in love with his voice.
Oh, Jude's amazing.
I got Jude coming on this week, man. He's down on Friday, actually. He's this incredible chameleon, man. I didn't realize.
Dude, that's what I'm saying. The guy is incredible. I mean, at first, like, it's funny when I first met him and started having him in, like, I think the first time I had him sing a Bryan Adams song or whatever, right?
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's amazing. So I'm like, okay, he's the Bryan Adams guy.
Right.
And then I was like, all right, well, we've done enough of that. And then I would have him do this. And I'm like, oh, no, he's that guy.
Right.
And then I'm like, all right, let's do some Depeche Mode. And I'm like, oh, no, he's the Depeche Mode guy. And then one of my favorite musical performances there, we did Mama by Genesis.
Oh, my God. No way.
Dude. Wow. He crushed it. Crushed it.
God,
so good.
That's got to be out there. I'll find that on YouTube.
Oh no, it's definitely on YouTube. Yeah, just type in Mama Soundcheck Live. It's great.
Okay. I guess I'm as thankful to you guys for bringing me into that fold and getting to see so many amazing players. I know that Randy Cook is on a lot of your gigs, right?
So Glenn, has been spending his time between Alice and the Vampires, and if Glenn's not available, Randy is my guy. He's amazing. I love Randy.
Yeah, you can't go wrong with either guy. Randy is another Canadian friend of all of them.
Oh yeah.
In A Flock of Seagulls, we have this new family, right? Because our guitarist is the singer for the Spoons, which is a great Canadian band, and so like Phil X and Randy Cook and all those guys all grew up with my buddies up there.
I just talked to Phil today.
Did you? Yeah, he seems to be doing well too, man. He's got
he's working.
He's got such a humble, charismatic sort of way to laugh.
Phil is great. I love Phil.
Yeah, I've got some pre-sobriety funnies with him too, man. So,
okay.
But I was going to ask you before we wrap up, man, because you've curated all these shows and you've worked with so many artists, you're developing these artists. It's been a fun question. I asked Kenny.
Okay.
Dream gig, a dream band that you would assemble. So if you're putting together, I know that's a tough thing, man, because it's not to say one is better than the other, but a band that you would be part of, your singer, your drummer, your bass player.
You know, this is gonna probably seem like like a like a BS answer, but it's kind of not. The the resident band for Soundcheck Live incredible, which is Glenn Sobel on drums, Steve Feckety on guitar, Derek Frank on bass, Carl
Restivo?
Restivo on
Yeah.
vocals and rhythm guitar. I mean, it's a different kind of thing. I know what you're saying about the question,
Sure.
but like literally, we've been playing together for like 4 years, and for the first two, every single week.
Oh my
You
God.
know,
Yeah.
and there is just something about everybody knows everybody else. So I think that for me, the answer, instead of trying to say, well, I really love this guy and that
Yeah.
guy, for me, it's more important how they gel together. So to say like in Ultimate Band, not having actually played together. So anyways, that's my personal answer.
I love it, man. No, that you've already got it. The fact that you've developed that and created that that's a
Well,
win.
I didn't create it. I just chose the
Well,
guys,
that's
and
what I
they
mean. Yeah.
said yes, and it's been great. And I cannot wait for this all to happen again, man.
Yeah.
It's been extremely tough, but you know.
When it does, you know that the energy and
Oh
the
yeah,
fanaticism about the patrons are just going to go crazy.
definitely.
If anybody out there watching has not seen Soundcheck Live down at Lucky Strike in Hollywood, you've got to see this thing, because Steve assembles this core band of professionals. Not just, these are not hacks. Every one of them is an incredible player in their own right. But then he gets all these performers to play songs, some obscure, some songs that you know, maybe B-sides, so wonderfully that it's an experience every night. And it's there's no cover charge, dude. That's the craziest thing. There's no cover
Yeah,
charge in Hollywood for the greatest show on the strip, you know? And so
crazy.
I can't wait for it to come around too. It's funny because we were always playing weekends down there for the most part when the band would
Hmm.
come through. And so I've tried to figure out ways. Well, I got to just
Weekends, I know.
I,
We've talked about it,
yeah,
and then there was one Wednesday that you were around.
yeah.
Wait a minute, did you play on a Wednesday or was it a Saturday?
No, Wednesday. Yeah.
Okay, because I've only ever had one show on a Saturday
Mm.
ever, so I was
Well,
just wondering if that was it.
I can't I love the fact that they're on Wednesdays. It's a great thing because you're getting these players that don't have to give up a weekend gig, and they can
Right.
do.
Yep.
And for me, I'll just spend a couple extra days in Hollywood, you know. And so next time we'll on that Thursday off, I'd love to come out and see your show, maybe play a tune if
Beautiful.
you're up for it, and then
Oh,
let,
100%.
let's go back and grab some more sushi on that day off. You know, what do you
Let's
say?
do it.
I'm so glad to see you here, buddy, and really grateful
Kevin,
to help you.
it was an absolute pleasure chatting with you, man.
Will you give a Kim a squeeze for me and all your buddies, man, when you're rapping down there? I
Will
can't wait
do.
to hear what you do next. Have a beautiful
Thank
day,
you, man.
man, and thanks for spending the afternoon with us. Thanks again to Steve Ferlazzo and Five Star Guitars for sponsoring us. We appreciate you being here. Tomorrow we've got Michael Williams, the MTV or the VJ from Much Music. So it'll be fun. We'll talk about the origin of Canadian MTV era Much Music. Have a
Nice.
good afternoon, everyone. Stay healthy, and we'll rock later. Talk to you soon.